Now, again, you'll have a remediation on this quiz next Wednesday. And so Wednesday, what day is that? What day is next Wednesday? Somebody help me out. The 26th? 25th, okay. So Wednesday, 25th, we'll have remediation for the quiz. And it will not, then you'll have a retake on the, I think next Thursday, though, is homecoming, isn't it? The pep rally. Do we have class is the question. Probably short. Yeah, so we'll do it in class. Retake in class. All right, so we'll do a retake in class if you want it. If you don't want the retake, there'll be an alternative assignment. No big deal. Okay? We're all good with that? On the 26th, I'm sorry. All right. Now, when you're looking at, so let's move on. Let's talk about a couple problems people had. First of all, I warned you that when you think of freezing, the word freezing, I knew it was going to happen. I was not surprised at all at the results, because I say something, and sometimes when a teacher says something to you, writes it down, and asks you to say it back, and you say it back, it somehow doesn't sink deeply into your mind, especially stuff that you're already used to. So one of the things that, when you have a misconception, when you have an idea that's wrong, sometimes these misconceptions, that's not that you don't know. Misconception does not mean you don't know. That means you know something it's just wrong. Okay? I mean, you know it and it's wrong. Unteaching it, is very hard. We call that fossilization. So once you get an idea in your head, it's hard to unteach it. So one of the things that I knew you had in your head is that 0 degrees Celsius is freezing. I knew that was in your head because, well, I've been teaching a long time, and I also live in this same world you do, and everybody says it's freezing, it's below freezing, they mean it's below a zero, right? They say it's above freezing, they mean it's above zero, or 32 degrees Fahrenheit, right? Right? Negative 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Correct? Yeah. That's what they always say. That's what you hear in the Weather Channel. That's what you see on the news. That's what everybody tells you. And what they're always talking about freezing, they're talking about freezing of water. Every substance has its own freezing point. Every substance has its own melting point. So you can't, freezing does not mean 0 degrees. Freezing is, the temperature is 0 degrees is when water freezes. Water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius, but alcohol freezes at a lower temperature. You can put alcohol in your freezer, it won't freeze, it won't turn solid. But water will. So freezing is different for every temperature. You have to know that. So what was the one answer people chose incorrectly on that list of data? They would just naturally, just because of all the years you've lived on planet Earth and learned that 0 degrees is freezing, naturally you gravitated towards 0 degrees, correct? That's what most people got it wrong, chose 0. I gave you what? What did I give you? What did I tell you? I didn't tell you the freezing point. What did I tell you?
Melting point.
The melting point. If I tell you the melting point is at 5 degrees Celsius, what's the freezing point? If the melting point is 5 degrees Celsius, what's the freezing point? 5 degrees Celsius. The melting point and freezing point are the same. I said that in class. I posted the notes. So it all depends. Melting, if it's melting, it's increasing in temperature. It's increasing in temperature. If it's freezing, it's decreasing in temperature. I mean, it's important that you get that. You had open notes, guys. Did you have that written down? You had it written down in your notes? What part of that was confusing to you? If you had it written down, you got the question wrong, please feel free. No, very few people had this perfectly done. So we've all made mistakes. So now let's... let's not... Yes, the questions are going to be tricky. That's the way questions are. Okay? They're going to be tricky. The way you word the question is going to be I need to prepare you to take the test that you're going to take, not take the test we wish we could take. Does that make sense? I wish it didn't need to be tricky. It's not really tricky. It's just big words. I use big words, right? And it makes you have to think, and that's what they're going to do to you on the OST. That's what you're going to see on the SAT, ACT. That's what you're going to see on the AP exams. You have to see the questions the way they are going to be presented to you, not the way you and I both wish we could. I wish we didn't have to do tests at all. We could just do oral exams and just you show me by building or doing something, but that's not the way it is, okay? But yes, I'm not arguing with you that it's not tricky. It's not a straightforward question. I warned you it wasn't going to be straightforward. You had to know, to answer the question, your key piece of information, the thing that you needed to know beyond any reasonable doubt is this. Freezing point and melting point's the same. If you got that wrong, it's probably because you forgot or didn't understand this. Also, that freezing point and melting point is different for every substance. Okay. Now there's another question that I saw of the people that came up here that these people got wrong, and that was what was it? Somebody help me out. One they got wrong that they were confused about. It's only 4 questions. But you know which one.
Please pardon this interruption. This is just a notice that the John Hay Fathers Walk is now ending and students will be returning to class. Fathers, thank you so much for coming out this morning. Safe travel.
So, aren't the fathers... Okay, I was confused. Why would that... Okay, so anyways, I think one of the questions was, what did... let's see if... Yeah, there was a long sentence that said... A couple sentences, yeah. Well, for some... the order was changed. Right. So I think it said something like, and I'm not going to phrase it exactly, but it said something like, look, scientists or people have been trying to discover, to understand our world, right? And I said, even to the point where people are trying to make lead into gold. I said, there were a lot of problems with what they were doing. There were a lot of issues. They had misconceptions. They had false ideas. Not necessarily bad. It's just they had ideas, and their ideas ended up being wrong, right? Because that's the nature of ideas. Sometimes we're wrong, and we have to admit it, because otherwise we're stuck and we keep getting the wrong answer. So then I said, what was it that we learned, or what was it that we did get from all the work that they were able to do? And I believe one of the answers, I even misspelled magic on purpose, but one of the answers was magic. Like magic, I put J, but magic was what we learned was true about the world. Why would you choose magic? Huh? Some people chose magic. More than one person. I talked about magic, yes. I said people thought magic existed. I said that. But that wasn't the point of the conversation. The point was that was one of the things they got wrong. At least as far as we know. Then I mentioned the other one that I was almost sure that a lot of people were going to choose, and a lot of people did, was that the elements were fire, air, earth, and chi. And people chose that. I knew you were going to choose that. That was a distractor. I knew you were going to choose it. As soon as I put it, I'm like, half the kids, because we talked about it. We talked about magic too, but I didn't think people would choose magic, because it says, what did the world gain? What ideas worked from all the work that they got put together, right? Are the elements of life fire, earth, air, and chi? No. So that was not the right answer. But people were going to choose it because we did talk about it. See, that's the difference between understanding your notes and just writing it down. This is what Cornell Notes is all about. You can have an open notebook, but it won't help you unless you understand what you're writing, which means you have to process them. And then the right answer was that we could separate substances to make pure materials. All right? So there's some serious, this is again about what did we get from the lesson. I repeated that message before we left, and then we said it again on Wednesday. So if you're not understanding, if you want to write down, remember the whole idea of summarizing that day's notes. If you're sitting there and you're like, at the end you're like, we talked about a lot, raise your hand and say, what are the key points you want us to get out of all this, Mr. Mendoza? And then let's write it down. Let's write down those key points. All air, earth, fire, I was just telling you background on where people were, things that went wrong, not good things. So we have to communicate. Does that make sense? An element is the purest form. The purest form of a material it cannot be broken down. You missed a quiz here. Cannot. Where? Oh wait, were you taking the quiz? Where are you coming from? Oh, to school. Okay. I just have several passes here. I wasn't sure which pass was it that you laid down. The purest form of material, it can no longer be broken down. Let's just use the word separated. Without it losing its properties. So if I have element, let's call it A, there is no element A, so I'm just going to call it A. It's going to have a mass. We call it molecular mass. Or let's not even call it molecular mass. It's a mass, atomic mass. Atomic mass. It's going to have a consistent density. So it's density. It's going to have whether it's oxidative state. Does it rust or not? Does it rust? Does it react? Its reactivity. So as these qualities, and A is the purest form where these qualities exist. These qualities are going to be different for every material. Are we all okay with that so far? All right, so no. So tell me, what is confusing? Tell me what is not clear to you. What about A?
What is A?
It's a variable. So it could be anything. A is the purest form of something. It's an element, it's an example element. And that element, if you have an element, any element, it has a specific mass, density, oxidative state, reactivity. Those properties, this is the purest form. If I broke it down any more, those would change. Does that make sense? It's the pure. So if gold, this is the purest form that I could have. I'd still call it gold. If I broke it down any more, it wouldn't be gold anymore. Does that make sense to you? It's the purest form. We call it elements. Those are the elements. There weren't 5 the way their ancestors thought. 5 or 6, depending on where you came from. But there are actually at least 118 elements. This is a periodic table of what? Elements. You'll get a copy of this. We in biology are going to be worried about these elements here. We're going to be worried about these 4 periods, the first 4 periods of the periodic table. We're not going to be worried about uranium, plutonium, silver or gold. How many people here have gold bones? We have 2 minutes left in class. How many people here have uranium for a brain? These elements do not, the elements underneath these 4 first rows, there are some of them are involved in life processes, but very rarely and a very small amount. Of these elements, first 4 rows already made your life easier, right? So you only have to worry about the first 4 rows. Really, what we're going to focus on our studies on for this year. Next year you'll talk about all of them, but this year we're going to focus on just mostly the second row of the periodic table, and specifically, I would write it down. Right now I would have already written that down. I would put in second row, periodic table. But you didn't write it down, Mr. Mendoza. No, I didn't. Jimmy, I didn't write it down. But I said it. I repeated it. Second row of the periodic table is going to be important. That's one. And then the second thing that I haven't said yet, that I'm going to write down, is that the elements of life are, and you need to know this, schnapps. That's carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur. There are other elements that do become important for life, but these are the big ones that you're going to see a lot of this year and next year and the year after. So these are the ones we're going to focus on that you need to know. I'm telling you right now, I can't say it any clearer. If someone can think of a more clear way of me saying this, please let me know. You must know these. They will be tested. And probably next week. Again, there'll be a makeup on Thursday. Watch your videos. If you haven't watched them, go back over your notes. That's a homework assignment that I'm not grading. It will be graded on your next quiz, though.